Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is kind of one that I've wanted to do for a while in terms of like explaining how I put muscle on, how I built a booty, how I went from being a very petite small person and kind of like drifting on that underweight margin when I was an athlete to then, I guess it's the body transformation video. I don't know why I just say that at the start. So I'm going to start off with just kind of like my background, give me loads of snippets and like information popping up about like basically how I put on 24 pounds-ish. So it's around 10 kilograms in the past 3 years. I think it's 3 years now that I put that amount of weight on. And I've been sat at that 68 kilogram weight for a very long time now. I haven't really fluctuated from that. That's like, I've literally been at that weight for like a year basically. So first things first, let's go back to the beginning of the story where I was basically a full-time swimmer from the ages of 16. Well, I swam since I was 10 years old, but in terms of like full-time, like 9 times a week, 16, 15 till I was 18, and that's like 9 sessions a week in the pool, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, plus gym 4 times a week. So obviously I started gym training from a pretty young age in terms of weightlifting. I didn't start that till I was 15, 16, but it wasn't the kind of training that I do now. It was more so correlated to swimming. So I would just do like, I don't know, Bulgarian split squats. I do box squats. There's certain elements that I would then translate into the pool. So they're very kind of like specific. I do a lot of jump tests, strength and conditioning. So more so that sort of thing when I was 16, 17, 18, and then obviously after that is when I finished. So when I was a swimmer, obviously it was very intense. From a very young age I had skin folds done, I had my body fat percentage measured. I think it was every 3 weeks we'd have that done, and it was kind of like really detrimental to your mental health. When I look back on it now, I'm like, oh my god, like to get that done so often as well, and to have young girls who are like 16 so concerned about their weight is very damaging. I know it's important when you're an elite athlete, which we all were, and that's fine, but with myself personally, I was very under my skin folds, which is what they're called. So when you had them done, it's like you get like body calipers and they're all over your body and things like that. And for the girls, you were meant to be the same as your weight. So for example, at the time I was 57, 58 kilograms. When I was like 14, 15, 16, my weight didn't really change that much. So my skin folds would have had to be 57 as well, but mine were like 38, 42, so ridiculously low. And I like always remember this one girl. I did swim with her, nice girl, whatever, this is just a stupid comment she made. She was like, oh my god, you're basically anorexic, it's so stupid, you don't eat. And when something like that sticks in your head so much, and that was probably kind of like 6 months before I actually quit swimming, and it was something that always engraved with me. I really struggled with nutrition in terms of kind of like not knowing what to eat, because we had nutritionists, but I just really struggled to put weight on when I was a swimmer. Like my endurance was through the roof. I was so fit and healthy. I just couldn't put weight on. It was quite stressful for me to be like that small and in that kind of area, whereas like the other girls were all at their perfect skin folds. Some were a bit more, which obviously isn't optimum, but yeah, I really struggled with nutrition and food, and then that's kind of like where I started to have like a bad relationship with food over that period of time. So I stopped swimming when I was 18, and the year that I stopped I kind of just had, I don't know, 2 weeks off. I was just chilling, not knowing what I wanted to do, because you come out of this swimming bubble. And I went straight into weightlifting in the gym because I'd already done it as a swimmer. I kind of knew what I was doing, but this is where it kind of got obsessive, and I was like, I want to be a bodybuilder. So my sister said to me, you'd be such a good bodybuilder, like you'd be so good on stage. I was like, yeah, oh my god, like I'd love to do that. So that I kind of had that in my head that I wanted to be a bodybuilder, when the idea of doing that now, absolutely no, not a chance. So I started doing weight training. I started going 8 times a week, so I was doubling my sessions. I was doing cardio in the morning, because I wanted like to be super skinny as well. I wanted that thigh gap. That was that thigh gap period. I wanted to be skinny, but I wanted muscle. I wanted a bum, and it was so confusing because it's like I didn't really want to eat that much, but I was so confused because I was eating at least like 2,800, 3,000 calories when I was a swimmer, but then have to obviously change that because I wasn't doing as much exercise. So I think the transition from an athlete to a non-athlete is very difficult. like that whole period. But it was okay. I kind of got to grips with it. I calmed down on my training as I started to educate myself more. But then I went away, and this was like an ongoing injury, but then I ended up that I tore my meniscus in my knee, so I was out for months, and I cannot tell you how much that affected me in terms of not being able to train. I was so worried about my nutrition because I wasn't training, because obviously, like I said to you, I was pretty obsessive with the gym in terms of not knowing what I was doing, like the fasted cardio, the weights, not eating enough for what I was doing, that kind of thing. The very confusing stage of transition from athlete to non-athlete for me. I had knee surgery, was out for months. I had that in November. I was on crutches, my knee was huge, I couldn't train, I was scared to train legs, like all that. And that was my first year at uni. So I'd moved away from home. It was my first year at uni in like a new place, like on my own, living on my own. Just had knee surgery, was on crutches for like a month, couldn't really walk, and it was just like, I just felt really kind of stressed. And like with that was the issues with my eating, because I didn't know what to eat in terms of when I wasn't training or whatever. I was so used to being so active, so I basically wasn't eating enough. And then I wasn't eating enough, I would start binge eating. I would eat loads and loads and loads of food, and then I wouldn't eat for like a day because I'd eaten so much food and I felt so bad, and it was that whole binge eating cycle. And I've spoken about this loads before, so you guys probably do know about that, but I just thought I'd be really open and honest, because like I just feel like I needed to tell you all. So it was like the binge eating, first year of uni, and then I had like a really, really good summer. It was like really chill, like that whole summer after my knee operation. I was really happy, and that's when I started to kind of post on social media in terms of, I guess, like fitness stuff, my own accountability, like posting videos, posting photos. And it was just like, then I changed my name to Lucy Davis Fit, and I was like, oh, this is really exciting, like I absolutely love doing this. So that was like my second year at uni, and then that's how I started where I am now. So Lucy Davis Fit obviously became like a brand in itself, and then a year later I started working with Ben. But it was that second year at uni where I actually completely refocused my attention onto fitness as well as doing my degree. But in terms of educating myself, I did get my PT quals level 2 and 3 just so I had them to have the option if I wanted to PT face to face. I do obviously all online, and I have my coaching school, the links below. But in terms of nutrition, for me, this was the biggest thing. Like I said, I was an avid binge eater and wouldn't eat for days. I'd struggle. I wasn't eating enough. I was massively, massively underweight as well at some stages. And my weight was very fluctuating. I was like obsessed with the scales, whereas now I don't weigh myself at all, really. So to explain to you about the nutrition side of things and how I guess like I overcame this, was obviously the first thing is to educate myself. I think doing my PT course was helpful, but alongside that, because that wasn't enough, was do my own research, my own experiments with things, and building myself back up and realising that you're not a swimmer anymore. You cannot eat 3,000 plus calories, you can't starve yourself and all this thing. And it was okay to be a little bit leaner, because I've always been a bit more on the lean side in terms of like upper body, like the abs and things, but I'm very, very thick. Lower body, that's just where I store my fat as a woman. Like, as women, our physiology, we do store more fat than men, and I store mine on my thighs and under my glutes. And like I said to you, the year prior I was like obsessed with having a thigh gap, so that's why I was kind of like under eating to like have that. But obviously realising now that's where I personally store all my fat, and that's where my stubborn fat is. So it's obviously a learning curve as you go through your fitness journey, and it'll be different for every single person. But I completely stopped weighing myself because I knew that I was going to have to put weight on, and I did. I put on 10 kilograms in that 2 years. So 20 to 22, like second year of uni to now, that's where I put on like the most amount of weight. Like 24 pounds is obviously quite a lot of weight to put on, but I know I needed to do that. And I just started to like control my portions. I did start to count my macros, just because if you do have a specific goal in mind and you do need to achieve something, whether it's weight loss or weight gain, and it is quite important to you and you can't do it without that, and I was quite a novice, I counted my macros. I did everything very, very specific for me. Obviously, I knew how to do that myself, which was really good. If you don't obviously get a coach, use the My Coach School, things like that. So I did all my macros, and that really, really kind of kickstarted everything for me and really, really helped me. I learned that no food is a bad food and that whole thing, and about balance and not cutting out carbs and not being scared of having carbs and like a biscuit cake and things like that. And it is a long process, and it is something that this is why me and Ben do what we do now, to support you and help you through whatever fitness journey, health, lifestyle change you're going through yourself. We've both been there. I've been there quite dramatically with loads of stuff like that I just explained to you. But it's all about control and things like that with your nutrition. Understanding is obviously so important. Knowing your calories and your macros for your specific body and for you personally. If you feel like you need a chocolate bar every day, have a chocolate bar every day. If that'll hit your craving, and if it's in your macros, that's fine. Things like that, if you're doing macros. If you just want a balanced diet, control your portions, that's fine. You just need to do something that is sustainable for you in the long term, which is obviously what took me about a year to understand. But eventually, obviously, I did understand it. Like I said, I wasn't weighing myself, and when I eventually did weigh myself, I'd put on 24 pounds. So that is how I did put on the weight. But in terms of obviously building the muscle in the gym, that's a completely different story. And because I've always loved training, I've always been ridiculously sporty with like swimming and stuff, I love the gym, and I've always loved the gym. I know that's not the case for everyone. You have to build it up. Like with beginners, don't always start with the heavy ass weights that you see people doing. Do body weight work and build yourself up. Join the My Coach School. Obviously it'd be so helpful for you in every single aspect because they're all video tutorials. But I loved my training, so that for me wasn't like the harder part. The nutrition for me was like the biggest struggle. But with my training, all I made sure that I did was have a set program, because I write all my own programming, or Ben does it for me. We kind of do each other's. But at the time, before I was even with Ben, I would write my own programming for the week, and then the main thing for me is progressively overloading with the weight. And this is how I personally predominantly did put so much muscle on. And I'm not saying this is a quick fix, and it's not at all. It does take a long time to build muscle. If like when you're starting from kind of scratch and you're starting from nothing. Obviously I had quite a good base. I do have quite good genetics. Like I know genetics do play a part in it. I've always been sporty. I've always been a bit lean. I've had abs since I was 7 years old because I did gymnastics and all the crazy things. So it does play a part. It plays a part in like your bone structure, how strong you are, how quickly you build muscle, how quickly you put fat on. So I did build muscle relatively quickly. I started to see results in like 4 or 5 months properly, and then obviously I've been doing it for 2 years now, so I would hope to see some growth in terms of muscle. So that 24 pounds that I put on wasn't fat, say, it was muscle obviously as well, because I've got quite a, is it stocky, blocky kind of figure, like solid. So yeah, progressively overloading the gym, sorting my nutrition out in terms of eating the correct amount of calories to fuel my body on a daily basis. I think I was at around 2,000 to 2,200 calories, which was so much better for me. There's so many videos on my YouTube which explains about my different cuts. I've done quite a few different cuts throughout this period as well. I've just done one. You can see my cutting series. So I've just done a cut. If you want to know how I cut body fat, it takes me a long time to lose fat on my lower body. That's the predominant reason I do a cut. So if you want to see that, you can go onto my cutting series anyway. But the main thing that I kind of wanted to get out of this video is to get it off my chest, for one, and kind of like explain to you and update you, but also tell you, like, a lot of people you see on social media have also had started from chapter 1, and then now they may be at chapter 20, and you might feel like you're at chapter 3, but that's fine because everyone starts from somewhere. It's not an overnight fix. It's something that is a lifestyle change. Eating healthy, exercising, obviously it is the best thing for your body. We have one body and it is there to look after. Obviously now my hobby turned into my, I don't even call it job, I don't feel like it's work, but it's my whole passion, it's everything that I do. And I just don't want you to be worried if you're at a struggling stage, or if you're at a really good stage, like, well done, like, keep going. There's loads of things that people can at different stages, but everyone has their ups and downs, and everyone has their own personal struggles. I feel like I just had like a massive chat with you all, but I hope you enjoyed that video, and it was a little bit more background into me, I guess, really, because I've never really done it properly on YouTube for a very, very long time, so it updates you properly. I'm sorry it was all over the place. Like, I've just done this off the cuff. I've just said to Ben this morning that I'm going to just explain to everyone about putting on so much weight and things like that. So if you enjoyed this video, and I really, really hope that you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really, really supports me if you do. Drop a comment below if you've got any questions, if you've maybe been through what I've been through, whatever it is, like an athlete to non-athlete, binge eating, under eating, whatever it is, let me know and I'm happy to help, and I see you in my next video. Bye!